there's nothing too small that you can do for someone else that won't make an impact.
Welcome to another episode of the Waking Up to Win podcast. I'm your host, Mark Pessin, Chief Learning Officer at Realty ONE Group. Each day, we're excited to provide podcast episodes featuring industry leaders and our own industry experts, armed and ready to share timely and relevant messages designed for today's real estate professional. As circumstances continue to change, one thing that is constant is the generosity and acts of kindness we're witnessing in our local communities and cities around the globe. Today, I'm thrilled to have back on the show Cory Jo Vasquez, our Chief Marketing Officer. Cory, thanks for coming back and doing this with me again.
Yeah, I love this. I think this is an awesome opportunity, at least for you and I to chat, and then hopefully to shed some light on some other really important subjects right now.
Definitely. So I know you wanted to come back and talk about something that's near and dear to both of our hearts, which is giving back to the community. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that what I love about the subject is, one, the impact that we can have as just people. So beyond the real estate profession and our industry, the impact we can have on each other as people. And I think that it's always been important, but I think it's becoming more and more important as the generations that come after mine, and I'll be upfront, I'm a Gen Xer, but as the generations that come up after mine even place more importance on it from an organization and a company perspective. So I can tell you, having worked for a public company most recently, that it became not only critical from how you view yourself as an organization, but how you're viewed by your customers and your clients. And as a public company, even our investors were interested in how we impacted the communities around us, what we did from a conservation standpoint, how we really made a difference. So I started giving back long ago and trying to help communities by, going out and delivering Meals on Wheels when I was little. I worked for an animal shelter for a while as a development director, and then now continue to foster animals as a way to kind of give back and teach my kids to give back. But I just love this idea that it matters as a brand and a company what you do.
That's awesome. And I agree with you completely. And I think that it's so much more than just a PR campaign. I think that it really is about who we are as people and as an organization, and how we represent ourselves and how we are contributors to the community. So can you talk a little bit about what that means from an organizational level, and how we can impact the community?
Yeah, and I think I always walk a fine line here, Mark, because you don't want to get into community giving and philanthropy and giving back, just from a PR perspective necessarily. But here's the deal, like it actually matters. Our millennial generation is said to be one of the most philanthropic or attuned to giving back to the community than any generation we've ever had. And you can see that in things like how Airbnb was created and timeshares were created, and even bike shares. You'll notice in metro areas like Denver, there are bike shares and car shares and all kinds of opportunities like that our millennial generation and now the next generations have come up with ways to share things, give of their time, give of their resources. And so because they're at home thinking of how they can do that and be a bigger part of the community, they expect their brands and the organizations and the companies that they affiliate with to do the same. So I love this concept because I've seen more and more brands step up to the plate. And I think the real differentiator here is that brands that do it from the heart and from a very generous perspective are the ones that have the most effective campaigns. So I'll give you an example. Dove is one of my favorite brands now. And Dove to me a few years ago was, simply kind of a beauty product group or company. And so, I would honestly just think of, bars of soap for Dove. But Dove has launched into a bigger, broader campaign of how can we change our frame of mind about what beauty is. And in fact, that's one of their first campaigns that they came out with was, what is beauty to you? Beauty is. And people ran with that on social media. And beauty comes in all shapes and sizes and forms. And their real message was, as a community in a large world and a broader sense, we should redefine how we think of as beauty. And so what does that have to do with a bar of soap necessarily? Not much. They were coming from a place of let's change perspective on what we think beauty is. But what happened is that really facilitated people loving and embracing and wanting to be a part of their company. And honestly, Mark, I can tell you, I go out and buy Dove products now because of that, because I not only believe in what they're doing, but I want to support them in a way. So if I were to translate that over to what we do in the real estate industry, I mean, what we do has so much of an impact inherently. No matter what, we're helping people buy and sell homes. Some of them move into their dreams homes and live there forever and raise children and grandchildren. Like, that in itself is amazing. But when we think about how involved we are in our community and how much of an impact we can make, that really speaks volumes about who we can be as people. And then again, to wrap that around to kind of what Dove has done, people will embrace you. People will want to be a part of what you're doing. And then when they're ready to buy or sell a home or refer you to somebody, they'll think of you because you've really had an opportunity in a different way to make an impact.
That's awesome. And I remember that campaign well, and I remember how much people talked about it, and it really was impactful and got people talking about more than, as you said, just a bar of soap. So it's amazing how a company can kind of lead a conversation or a thought process like that. What do you see as a company like Realty ONE Group and some of the things that we've done or plan to do to try to have an impact on the community at that level?
Yeah, well, first of all, I can say that this is a company that has this want to give back and need to give to charity and need to share to be a part of something bigger at the very core of its being. So our founder, our executives, our leadership, our agents who have been in this network for a long time believe that giving back is part of what they need to do to be wonderful real estate professionals and wonderful neighbors. So you can't fake that, Mark. That's not something that you can try and create after an organization's built. This organization was built with that foundation. So I'm a big fan. And to be honest with you, Mark, and even on this podcast, I can say this is one of the reasons why I joined Realty ONE Group, because it's very, very innate to what we do. Beyond that, we look for every opportunity to do that, to give back. One of the pinnacles is obviously One Day, which is our anniversary, and that's actually coming up. So every May 1st, we celebrate our anniversary as Realty ONE Group. And instead of cakes and luncheons and things like that, we actually spend that day going out. It's our One Day. We go out, we give back into the communities that we live and work in. We share, we donate, we do whatever we can. That's our way to celebrate that. So that's kind of our pinnacle give back opportunity. But we also have ONE Cares, which is a 501c3 organization, meaning you can give to ONE Cares and it's tax deductible. And that's a very impressive way for a company to have a charitable arm so that at any opportunity, our company can give back. So an example of that would be if there were to be, unfortunate natural disasters. Those can come up very quickly. And we're here to support not only our agents, but those communities that are part of those natural disasters. And because we have a 501c3, we can do that very easily. So again, that shows the heart of the company. The company was built to have a resource available to give back. So, but beyond that, Mark, I know it. I've seen it. Our brokers, our agents everywhere are constantly, they're making pies and handing them out for Thanksgiving. They're stuffing backpacks with goods for back to school days. They're just doing whatever they can every day.
And I was going to ask you about that, like just down to the individual solo real estate agent level, some of the things you already mentioned, but what do you see agents being able to do so that they can have an impact in their local communities, whether that's just neighborhood that they're farming or their schools or whatever that may be?
Yeah, so I think this is kind of key, Mark, and I love to give this example. When I worked at the animal shelter, I found a dog that was in one of the kennels and had an opportunity to take that dog in to get groomed. And she went into a Petco to get groomed, and she was actually adopted out a couple days later. And I stayed in touch with the adopter of that dog. This is kind of a crazy story, but I always draw on this when I think of what you can do in your local communities. She was adopted later to a woman in Greeley, Colorado, which is north of me about an hour. And that woman stayed in touch with me and wrote me letters. And I had thought I just, did one great thing by, getting a dog groom that later got adopted. But what eventually happened is this woman went to her local humane society and started volunteering herself. She was so had fallen in love with this dog that was at the shelter. And so she went up and started volunteering at her own animal shelter. Then she joined that organization as a permanent volunteer. Then she started driving around the spay and neuter van for the shelter on the weekends. And then she became a board of director member of that organization. And so she, for years, spent adopting out exponentially numbers of animals, helping these animals, helping the people in that community. And I think that was because of one dog that she fell in love with and adopted. So I think the message for that has always been for me, like, there's nothing too small that you can do for someone else that won't make an impact. So a lot of times we set out to make some big grand gesture or give a large amount of money or do something, sit on a board of directors for a nonprofit. And that's really not what it takes. I think that you should, as a real estate professional, do what you love, do what comes naturally to you, and do what you think could help. And I just think that you'll reap the benefits from that regardless. If you come from a genuine place and do that for your neighbors and your community, whether it's, participating at church or volunteering at an animal shelter or at your local school, even, those things speak volumes about your character, and people will come. People will definitely come.
Absolutely the truth. I've witnessed it firsthand, and I know that it's something we've even tried to pass on to our children, which I know you do as well. But I think it's amazing that something as simple as just taking a dog to the groomer and getting exposed to an individual can have that kind of ripple effect. So that's incredible.
Yes. Yeah. And then on that note, Mark, I would encourage people to share that on social media. And again, not from the perspective of, I want your business, I need new clients, but from a perspective of, this was one thing that I can do. What more can we all do? What more can you do? Or it might inspire others. I tend to, like you said, we want our kids to be able to give back. And so we foster dogs, and we love to post the dogs that we foster on our Facebook pages. And A, that helps them get adopted. But B, I've had several people call me or contact me and ask me if they would be a good fit to foster dogs and how they can get involved. And so you're doing it from a place of sharing with the community, getting other people involved. But people do know that we do that and that we give back, and they love to comment on these cute dogs and love to talk to us. And so it is, for a real estate professional, it's another great way to kind of increase your sphere and talk to more and more people.
Yeah, I'm honestly always in awe of people that are able to foster animals. My wife and I have talked about doing it for years, but I think if we did, we'd end up with like 47 pets in our home. So
it is a risk of the business, and I will say we have foster failed. So one of our dogs that we have currently is a foster failure, meaning we fostered her and we ended up adopting her. So yeah, it is a risk of the job.
Yes, at one point we had 4 cats in our house, and they all lived to a ripe old age, so they were always ours.
That will happen.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is wonderful, Cory. So if agents wanted to learn more about ONE Cares or One Day, how can they learn more about what they can do with Realty ONE Group?
Yeah, so we have ONE Cares is prominently displayed on realtyoneGroup.com. You'll find out more, again, because it's part of our culture, but you can find out more about it on our website. For our Realty ONE Group professionals, we're going to be sending out a lot of communication here in the next while about One Day, as that's up and coming. And we'll share with you, we always want to do this. We want to share with our real estate professionals and even their networks other ways to get involved. So we'll have lots of great ideas on that. But again, it just takes getting involved with your local community and neighbors and friends and family to find out that there's a lot of need out there. And I think as real estate professionals, we can do a lot.
Cory, thank you again for being here today and for sharing with us and for inspiring us to go out and do more and give more in our local communities. I know that their need is great right now, and there's so much that we can all be doing and contributing just on a local level. So I appreciate you being here and sharing this with us.
Thanks, Mark.
And if you'd like to learn more about what Realty ONE Group is doing to help in local communities, please visit us at realtyonegroup.com/cares.